Where you get beyond that conversation of, oh, we can't do that because regulation doesn't allow us to, becomes a different conversation of our why. So being very clear on the why of desire of regulation advancement is really important from an executive and leadership point of view. From a digital point of view, if I were talking to developers only, it is in the best interest of a developer to stay within existing regulation and to create a foundation and a framework and a digital infrastructure that allows expansion and belief, right?
Hey there, hope you're all doing well. This is Griswold of FINOS. Before we get started, I just want to mention to you a little bit about our sponsors of OSFF. We could not do this conference. This conference is really expensive. It's really expensive to do it in New York City and the other one in London as well. So without our sponsors, this would not be possible. The majority of our members actually attend our conferences for free because of these sponsors. Keep that in mind, but I want you to listen to one of our speakers that you're going to listen to next. But I also want you to just take a minute to either go to the website and check out our sponsors or visit them when you come to OSFF. The majority of them will have booths there. They'll be walking around. They'll have swag. But I want to mention them. Some of them actually have tracks, like the Confidential Computing Consortium. They have an entire track on security that they're going to be curating with us. FinOps Foundation, they will be there walking around. Kevin Anami and Steve Trask and J.R. Sorment will be there. Red Hat, great member, great leader, sponsor. We appreciate everything they do. Our contributor sponsors are GitLab, OpenSSF. They will have a half track on security as well. Splunk, Temporal, and vCluster. And then finally, our community sponsors are Capital One, Gradle, Interop.io, Juxt, Causley, the Linux Foundation Education side, Modern, OpenLogic by Perforce, Oracle, Sauce Labs, CO Security, Solo.io, Sonotype, SUSE, Synadia, and Tetrate. Again, please visit our sponsors at their booths. Please visit their websites. And if you have any questions about them or how to sponsor, please let us know. osff@finos.org. All right, with that, I'll let you get to the rest of the podcast. Thanks so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Griswold of FINOS. Hope you're doing well. Today with me, I have Rakia Finley, and she is the founder and managing partner of Copper and Vine Studio. Rakia, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Aaron. How are you?
I'm great. Just came back from vacation, and so I'm glad you worked with me to get this going today. Rakia is going to be speaking at our conference, OSFF, the open source. See, this is what vacation does to you. Open Source in Finance Forum on October 22nd. And she's going to be talking about zero trust in open source, a new compliance blueprint for financial systems. So before we get into what that is, let's talk about you. So tell us about yourself and tell us how you came to be founder and managing partner at Copper and Vine Studio.
Sure, yes. So I started in technology in 2003, believe it or not. So I've been
Uh-huh.
in this game for about 20 years plus, and I've had the privilege of really seeing the evolution and utilization of enterprise technology. I've watched on-prem as a standardization and requirement turn into cloud as a standardization and requirement, just as much as I've watched binary data used as insight turned into cloud data, turned into AI, structured data utilized for insight. So I've been honored to really see the evolution of our technology infrastructure over the past 20 years from a lens of corporate, enterprise, and nonprofit. I started as a database engineer. I loved building databases for nonprofits. My very first project at 20 years old was building a database solution for a orphanage. And they had everything in paper. And of course, their pain point was losing the data, but for them, they were losing the records of children. And it was the first time for me that I truly got in relationship with the power of what technology can do, not only on the behalf of an organization, but on behalf of the people that it impacts. And that began my journey of what does it look like to build cool things in a way that supports enterprise. That led me to the corporate world. I was a part of the nonprofit starter pack for Salesforce, their first iteration. I was proud to be a part of that team to implement cloud-based solutions for nonprofits for the first time. And from there, I went on to hospitality and business, building database and systems for large hotels and large corporate organizations. I was proud to build the first technical app for Starwood hotels back then. And from there, it's continued. Copper and Vine is really focused on building big, impactful version one ideas for corporate businesses and nonprofits globally. So we work with a lot of enterprise companies attempting to utilize not just AI, right? Attempting to create digital infrastructures that support in scaling their organization. And then we work with nonprofits to really help them understand the power of the technology and the data that they already have and how they might utilize it to be insightful. So my joy in this, why I've for some reason managed to do this for so many years, is really I continue to get empowered and excited about the impact of good digital infrastructure. I continue to have vast ideas around what's possible when enterprise decides to utilize technology for good on behalf of the people that they're serving. And there's ways to do that. We just get to support each other in that process. Copper and Vine was founded, goodness, about 6 years ago. It
Mhm.
was a iteration from our smaller consultancy, Pinstripe Consulting, and a mash from my mobile app agency, FinDigital. Those two were really focused on siloed industries, building good tech. And the question was, what if we bring those solutions together and added deep consultancy and fractional CTO services on top of it, really helping organizations understand the impact of their digital solutions is the core of our mission. On top of it is taking that understanding and building really cool things with it is really what we want to see happen.
That's cool. That's cool. And I like the nonprofit side as well. Technically, we're a nonprofit, but I don't know that we're not a charity and we don't fall in, it's not altruistic necessarily, but we try to do good, even within financial services. But yeah, I can definitely see how I'm sure that you've had a lot of passion projects along the way that probably really actually impacted people, probably more so than some of our more corporate ventures, I would say. So that's great. So let's, without giving away your talk, let's talk a little bit about zero trust and open source. And I consulted with a company a while back that was in the zero trust space and in microservices and everything. And so that is interesting to me. But then I also know that there's regulation behind it within financial services. And open source is, again, you add that open source and AI layers to each other, and it's just rife for a whole bunch of fun. So talk to me, maybe give it a tease of what your talk is about, but maybe let's hit on those two areas if that works.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, what we get to talk about during the conference, which is so exciting, is really how to create a strong blueprint, framework, infrastructure that allows for a safe space, right, for zero trust to be exercised. What does that sound like? What does that look like? Where we, especially in the world of open source and AI, it's easy for us to believe in the implementation journey.
Yeah.
And sometimes the implementation journey of any level of digital transformation will forget about the history of digital work that was done.
Okay.
So, what I hope our session gets to be about first is the number one step we get to do when we're saying yes to any level of open source or AI implementation in our companies. And that is to audit our existing systems, standardizations, policies, and digital beliefs. Especially in finance, every organization and enterprise has a digital belief. You either believe that the data that you have is great or the data that you have is horrible. You either believe that the underlying digital infrastructure you have is sound, or let's just not talk about it. Right? You either have a great and strong IT team that is really building and supporting and managing your data structure, or you have an IT team that you don't quite know what they do from 9 to 5. And getting honest about the foundation of belief within your digital infrastructure is the main task at hand. When we do that, when we clean that room, when we clean that level of our work, then the conversation of open source gets a little bit more refined. It gets a little bit more clear. And the journey of zero trust and microservices and full trust becomes very highly streamlined from there. It's, I guess, spoiler alert, right? It really is, it gets to be a conversation on how you might audit and be aware of the digital beliefs that you've already said. AI might just be magnifying that, or it's just really going to double down and lean in to your enterprise belief already. And everyone within a company, especially in finance industry, is going to have a task at hand when we take that first step. Your IT team is going to have an opportunity to audit and defend their existing infrastructures, awarenesses, existing open source libraries that they're utilizing, whether they've said it or not, and the lack or the creation of documentation that supports awareness, as well as a clarity on the health of your data. When we talk about finance, we know that the journey of digital finance has evolved drastically for the past 10 years, but there's still particular trust scenarios that we've placed in our financial digital solutions that aren't going to work in the new AI world. I always love the example of credit approvals, immediate online credit approvals. And what we know for sure is that every finance institution has a particular grading rubric or SOP around immediate pre approvals or digital approvals. And some have done the work to say, does that belief and logic still apply to our market now? Does it still apply to the way that this world financially is set? Or does it still create some level of unconscious bias within our pre approval? We have multiple examples around pre approval of any level of finance or loan or financing digitally that takes location, right? May take age versus gender versus income and assume a pre-approval and credit score is there, but it's not the biggest logic point. When we move that into open source, we get to understand that whatever that rule is, it's just really going to be doubled down on, right? That AI is really going to say, okay, this is what you believe, so let's implement it even harder, and let me attempt to iterate and advance on it. So if we don't have a non-biased awareness of just a pre-approval of financing logic, then we're creating a environment for our tech team. We're creating an environment for our approval rates and our finance goals to be affected. So how might we get honest about the decisions we've made digitally for the past, I'll challenge any enterprise of saying for the past 7 years?
Mhm.
What internal digital decisions have we said that are at the framework of our infrastructure that have been coded into our digital awareness of our existing systems that if we were to turn on this new layer of insight would harm us, right? And the homework is to do that work and to be honest about it. And then from there, we get to really get clear on what's in the gap. And then we call that digital transformation of what it is we must do to allow this next layer to actually be insightful and effective.
Mhm.
What I see happen currently is we look at the tool and we assume that the tool is going to solve whatever problem, right? We even rate what open source tool we're going to use by the pain point. Oh, this tool will fix this problem. Usually that problem is layered, right? From our position as consultants, we see that that problem is usually within your infrastructure, it's within your data, and it's within your past decision-making logic that our open source is going to utilize as rule.
Mhm. Interesting. I thinking about your your talk seems, at least from the description, also seems to be more of a case study as well, I believe, with the fintech and not to be named at this point. But I wondered if you could add on and if you're comfortable with it, talking about fintechs and financial services companies all work within a regulated space. And you're talking about siloed before. I kind of see this is a huge silo being in the regulated space. And I know that the case study that you talk about navigating through the DORA Act as well. And not that we have to go into DORA, but I wonder just in general. There's open source, there's AI, and there's regulation. And I wondered as a person who is working through this as a consultant and navigating for your clients, I actually want to go to the regulation side. And do you think that current regulations or even regulations on the horizon are going to be effective enough to handle what we're about to encounter with AI? Going to be effective and then bring it down to an open source level. I'll put it this way. We know that regulators do not understand open source. Okay. There I said it. But and it's partially because, and I will not say where I've got this information from, but it's partially because like they're they are not on the leading edge of anything. And that's unfortunate. And that the funding isn't there to actually have a regulator that should be in charge to understand what is out there. So now we get to AI and dealing with financial services, dealing with your clients. I already know that the answer is no, regulation right now is not enough to handle what we're about to face. But I kind of want to ask, as a consultant in this field, where do you see this going? It's very open-ended, so wherever you want to go, I'm happy to go. That's a
Yes.
lot.
So here's what I know is enterprise wise or just growing industry wise, especially with fin tech. I also will say, and we do a lot of work and also medical, med
Okay.
tech
Yeah.
regulation, especially if we're just talking US, has never kept up. Right, and historically has never kept up with innovation.
Yep.
And in my opinion, regulation is also advised by innovation and specifically in finance and medical regulation. When we, as especially within financial industry, are saying, hey, we're going to do this thing differently, my advisement would always be allow existing regulation to be your base, going right back to that infrastructure awareness, right? Allow it to be your base, understanding that it will change, right? And what that requires is for you as an organization and company to have a high sense of internal regulation with also, and this is more of an executive strategy understanding of with the belief that you might advise that regulation. This is a bit taboo, right? I'm sure
No,
those,
it's
those
self-regulation leads to actual regulation, right?
yes, yes. And so and of course, my job is to see big ideas go to market. So I, of course, would never want regulation to be the reason that a big idea doesn't hit that.
Mm,
What I would love to see from any fintech organization or even a finance organization just leaning into advanced technology of any kind is to be deeply aware of how they plan for regulation to adhere to their reality and their innovation. And I would also challenge the why, right? If we're saying we really wish there was more rights around us getting a stronger finance profile of our customers so we can have a more of a lender awareness for our fintech product. If that's the case study, then you're challenging the Privacy Act. You're challenging existing regulations and acts now. Where you get beyond that conversation of, oh, we can't do that because regulation doesn't allow us to, becomes a different conversation of our why to that is to allow our product to advance its awareness on our customers and their spending capital. So being very clear on the why of desire of regulation advancement is really important from an executive and leadership point of view. From a digital point of view, if I were talking to developers only, it is in the best interest of a developer to stay within existing regulation. It's in the best, right? And to create a foundation and a framework and a digital infrastructure that allows expansion and belief, right? And that's how we get to a certified roadmap of digital development. And then how do we advise regulation is move our customers, right? Move our customers to our product and allow them to be the testimonies and case studies of having that higher level of profile would actually advance their experience, would open up opportunity, right? Would be a fantastic case study for us to have whatever that regulation that you're hoping advances. And sharing that as insight, being willing to be thought leaders. I think my call to action to the fintech industry right now is to be thought leaders of not only regulation advancement, but also just how we look at technology from a space of commerce and how do we integrate it all. If we were talking about this strictly just about banking and loans, that's a conversation. And then if we advance that to say banking, loans, and digital currency, right, and
mm,
digital coin basing, that changes the discussion, just adding that level of commerce product. So how might we get to a conversation of, we're talking about all the digital opportunities of finance, right? And even if you were to add the concept of, if I were to say banking, lending, traditional banking and lending on top of digital, new levels of digital coin-based currency, and likened it to digital currency exchange, our Zells and our Apple Pays and our, right? Those three things, even right now in our industries, it's hard to talk about all of those three as one product
yeah,
governance.
yeah.
So if you're not even there as a fintech institution where you can consider all levels of currency of all people, I would challenge your disdain or desire to alter regulation because you haven't really yet adhered your product to our scenarios of finance now. It's easy, I think, for us, especially in technology, especially as developers, to challenge regulation, right?
Mhm.
It's hindering our code, breaking our innovation. I would disagree with that and challenge that of saying, attempt to adhere to it and be innovative. And from there, advise on what's in the gap. rather than assume. Yeah,
That's I can't use expletives on this one. That's awesome. Nice. And no, that is a really interesting point of view that instead of challenging regulation, going back and just do it better. Be better, I think I feel like what you're saying right now.
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm for that. Okay. Okay, that's a good message. I like that. Okay, Rakia is going to be speaking again at OSFF on October 22nd. She's on the second day, and she's going to be speaking on the mutualizing risk and compliance in the open track. It's Zero Trust plus Open Source, the new compliance blueprint for financial systems. And I hope that you join us and her for that talk. And I just appreciate your time today and your insight as well. I you have no idea how much I learn doing these podcasts. It's more self-serving for me than it is anybody else, I'm sure. So thank you. I learned something that now we can actually put into our messaging, which is do better. Anyway,
We're glad.
but thank you. Looking forward to meeting you in person in a very short amount of time. And yeah, make sure Rakia's talk. And any final words before we go?
No, thank you for having this conference. I think we get to still have these discussions and learn. I think the new way of our digital existence may make us feel that learning is just one sentence propped away, but maintaining a level of community thought leadership is really, really important in this phase. So I'm excited for this conference. I'm excited about what we get to talk about, and I'm excited that this community has this resource. So just thank you for having me.
Cool. Cool. Thank you again. And with that, I'm going to say good day, good night, wherever you are.